Hello everyone, it's 2022 and Sega Wow is back, shining a spotlight on women in the sports industry to pave the way for the next generation. And I'm super excited as we're about to kick off the 2022 Sega Women Global Mentorship Programme. And yes, we're in full swing with preparations for our annual summit on female leadership in sport, taking place next month on the 8th and 9th of March, hosted by MasterCard, one of our founding members. And yes, we've gone excitingly from digital to hybrid for our events in 2022. This revolution is live. Today, we opened registration for the summit. So if you can get yourself to New York, you are in for a treat. The event is exclusively limited to 70 decision makers, and we have an early bird rate open for 2 weeks. And if you are stuck at home like I am today, you can watch it free online. We do ask that if you want to donate, small or big, it's greatly appreciated, as all monies raised are invested back into the Sega Women programme, and the purpose is to create more leadership opportunities for young female leaders in sport. So without further delay, welcome to our 8th episode of Sega Wow, Women on Wednesdays, the show dedicated to exactly that. You know who I am. I'm Katie Simmons. I'm the Global Chief Operating Officer at Sega, and I'm Managing Director of the Sega Women Global Mentorship Programme. And today's topic is pertinent for those participating in the modern sports world, and it's here by popular demand: a life after sport, athletes transitioning careers. And several athletes in our network requested this session, so here it is. And I'd like to just start by thanking our global media partner, AS, for broadcasting the show on their website and for this first episode of the year. So let's get WOW viral, people. We've got an eclectic mix of athletes from football, from rugby, water polo, artistic swimming, and basketball today. And I'm joined in the first half of the live show with 2 athletes that are working in executive roles in the sports industry. Jodie Cunningham. She's the St Helens and England player, and she's National and Women's Girls Development Manager at the Rugby Football League, the governing body. And secondly, last but not least, is Sonja Petrovic. She's a basketball legend from Serbia who has competed in the EuroLeague, the WNBA, and the Rio, and most recently, the Tokyo Olympic Games. Sega Wow's interactive. Send us your questions to our guests in the live chat, and watch out for 2 amazing gift giveaway questions with a chance to win a scholarship on the 2022 Sega Women Mentorship Programme, and also an exclusive book on today's topic. So watch out for those. Follow us at Sega Alliance, hashtag Sega Women, hashtag Sega Wow. So put your hands together, people. It's now time to wow. Jodie and Sonja, welcome to Women on Wednesdays. Great to see you. And I'd like to start with you, Sonja, just to give us a flavour of your amazing career to date, and how have seen you playing all around the world, and to give us an understanding of what your biggest achievement in the basketball court has been.
Thank you, and it's great to be the part of this amazing event. Now when I look back, obviously it looks like a long journey and a long road, but obviously my career, as I think for the most girls, started out from a dream, dream to go, go far, but mostly to just enjoy the game that you love. So when I was really young, I never even imagined that I will end up one day winning Olympic medal or winning, multiple championships. But obviously, I do consider myself really lucky that I had great people around me that helped me really a lot during my career in making tough decisions, because I do feel as a professional athlete, you will be on a lot of crossroads when you're choosing which club you will go to or which country. And it's always helpful to be, supported by, the good people. And I was really lucky that my family was my main support, coming from a family where my dad had experience in a sport, so he was there to give me advices when it was necessary. So my journey took me through several countries, and I do think those were really great countries to live in, from Spain, where I've been in Barcelona and Girona, then France, Czech Republic, Prague, Russia, Moscow, and twice in States, in Phoenix and Chicago. And in all those countries, obviously I won a lot of titles and games and medals, but I do consider that it really helped me to kind of broaden my views, learning a lot of different traditions, cultures, people, everything that helped me to be the person that I am today. So, I do always now, when I'm done with my career, emphasize that I accomplished a lot, and basketball gave me comfortability today to make decisions that I want and I like, and not that I'm made to do. But at the end, all the value that I carry is from the people I met and experiences that I had. So at the end, it's not about the only things that you win or lose, but also about the stuff that you gain that don't have price, like languages, learning different cultures, traveling around. So yeah, I do feel, it's not always easy being a professional athlete, but if you at the end are trying to be objective and realistic, you will see that there is a lot of things that you gain that maybe in the first sight you're not aware of.
Amazing, Sonia. Just the languages, the culture that you learned, the playing, and also, we won't underestimate the medals, because they were a truly amazing achievement that you achieved. Jodie, I'd love to loop you back in now. You're currently playing rugby league. You're a girl after my own heart. I don't know if you know, but I was the first female rugby league agent when I was a sports lawyer working in the north of England over a decade ago now. It seems a long time ago. You play for a great team, and you play for England. What are the biggest challenges you face as a female athlete?
Yeah, I think there's so many. It's really difficult, I think, particularly in a sport where it isn't professional. There's lots of different challenges. I think there's challenges when it is professional and it is your full-time job, but particularly for myself and other rugby league players, it's really difficult in regards to balancing the two. So balancing your career and balancing your playing commitments. Myself, and I'm sure many of the other women would agree, it's really difficult to fully commit to something when you've got something of equal priority that you can't then fully commit to, and you're always trying to find that balancing act. And my family for years always used to, were really proud and really supportive of my rugby league playing, but equally would sort of bring me back down to earth in regards to, are you committing the time that you need to in regards to progressing in your career? If rugby league isn't something you can get paid to do, you are at some point going to have to focus on your own career and where you want to get to in that. Originally, I wanted to go to university, I wanted to do medicine and become a doctor, and that all sort of coincided with me getting selected for England at 17. So when I was making those choices, I decided, being able to represent my country and getting as far as I could in my sport was of a higher priority to me at the time. I'm really fortunate that, many things have paid off and I now work in the sport. So as much as I don't get paid to play rugby league, my experiences from a playing perspective have led to me developing in my career in the sport. So, I'm really fortunate. There's lots of other female players that don't have that luxury. And, we've got a lot of teachers that play rugby league, and actually the lack of flexibility around time off and ability to commit to sport is really difficult for them. So in World Cups, sometimes they have to take 3 weeks, 4 weeks unpaid from work, which obviously is difficult financially on the restraints that you have there. So, yeah, I think there are a lot of challenges. There's a lot of amazing things about playing rugby league at the top level, but yeah, lots of challenges that come along with it.
I think there's challenges that you mentioned, but there's also a huge opportunity now to commercialize women's sport. And, it's amazing that you're playing professionally and you're not being paid. And that sort of forced you to, I guess, get another job. And I'll go into that in my next question. But moving on to sort of career transitions, Sonia, congratulations. In November, you were appointed the sports director of the Olympic Committee of Serbia. Which, how on earth did you manage to achieve all of those medals in basketball and do all those games and then go straight into a high-level executive role at a National Olympic Committee? Tell us how easy it was, the transition from the basketball court to the boardroom. And who supported you on this journey? Jodie mentioned her family when she was growing up, giving her that grounding, and you mentioned it as well. But on the journey, during, who else was there? And did you have a mentor that helped you sort of lead the way when making those choices?
Yeah, obviously, when I look now back, I haven't imagined that my transition after Korea will go so smoothly and fast. But I do consider myself pretty aware for what was coming next during my career. As I said, my family was there all along the way, and they did mostly similar job to the Jodie. They really kept me grounded. In the end, being in a women's sports, it's quite different, because you never know how much you will get paid back, and if that will be for life or just for, temporary solution. Then also rarely it's, opportunities that will save you for the whole life. So they made sure that I'm aware that, today I might be at the top, but tomorrow the situation could be changed completely, and to make sure that I am still working in different areas in my life. So even though it wasn't easy, I kept connected with my studies, and, I finished university in Serbia during my career abroad. And, they made sure I used the opportunity to, develop my languages, to develop my other skills. My dad often pushed me to write a lot of emails, or even, handle the conversation with, people on a top levels in the club, just to make sure that I'm kind of familiar with those relationships. So yeah, when we say about the mentor, I would say that my dad was probably the biggest mentor during my career. He came from sports, he came from basketball, and he was the one that did a lot of work, in different basketball organizations. So he had the experience to share with me. And then probably my mom, who, pushed me to never forget and stay connected with, the different worlds. So obviously when I was younger, I did it to maybe a little bit satisfy them. But, as I was aware that the end is coming, I knew that I had to, continue working, keep networking, keep studying. So towards the end, I look for the opportunities. And I think if you seek them, you will always find them. So I made sure that the last year of my playing time, I finished the FIBA Timeout Master, where I met, great people who had a lot of also influence in my thinking, exactly like Radmila Turner and Elizabeth Serbian, who were kind of mentors to us on that program, which always also is helpful to come from a woman, because they've been in a similar situation. So when I was done playing, actually a lot of opportunities appeared, but I wasn't sure what was that attracted me and what was that I wanted to work. The one thing I was sure about is that I want to be home. After 15 years living abroad, I wanted to be at home with my family, with my husband. And then from that point, I waited for the opportunity that I thought was the perfect match. So when the Olympic Committee of Serbia called, honestly, first I was surprised. I was also a little bit shocked, because I was scared that the role is too big for me to start off with that. But it does help that, I'm part of the great organization that has pretty, smooth organization which helps, to fit in easily and to, get familiar to the work easily. So in the beginning, it was a big change. It was completely different lifestyle, working at the desk, working long hours, and accepting that things doesn't change in a second, the way that we are used on the court. But I do feel that for a lot of things I was prepared, and I have to thank also the sport I come from, which is, a team sport, basketball, where I feel that, being with people and the connection, the relationship is something that you can really transmit and use afterwards in your career.
I think you touched on so many things there, Sonia, and obviously shout out to Sonia's mum and dad, because they are your mentors. So I wanted to say that. But you touched on so many things, and I just wanted to ask you very quickly, how many languages do you speak then? I'm going to be in awe of you, I feel.
Yeah, well, officially I speak 4, Serbian,
wow.
English, Spanish, and Russian. You know, I do feel I didn't maybe use all the countries. I spent, like, for instance, I didn't learn French, but at the end, if you don't spend enough time in some country and then you are not, you know, open to learning, that will not happen. And I was too young there, I think, for me to open those areas.
What a career, absolutely breathtaking. Jodie, I'd like to just bring you back in because you're working in your sport, in the governing body for Rugby League. Do you think you can impact the women's game for the better whilst playing it and working at the RFL simultaneously? And how do you seek to do that?
Yeah, 100%. It wasn't necessarily an opportunity I ever thought would come about. It's not something I necessarily worked towards with it as a goal in mind. It all sort of came about a little bit through chance. Sonia mentioned how unpredictable sport can be, and it was through an injury that I got before the World Cup in 2017. So I ruptured my ACL, so was out of the sport for a little while, and basically was just wanted any reason to just find my way back into the sport and just be involved in one way or another whilst going through rehab and recovering from the operation. So I got asked to do a really quick talk about my time in the World Cup, and really lucky that in the audience of basically the talk that I did was the CEO of the next World Cup, which should have been last year in 2021, been postponed to later this year. And he came up to me off the back of it and said, we're running men's, women's and wheelchair tournaments together for the first time in the sport's history. It's going to be the biggest we've ever delivered, and we'd love to have a women's ambassador on board. So, my route into the administrative side of the sport came by chance, and off the back of being an ambassador and turning up to events, ended up working full-time for the World Cup, which gave me the experience then to come into the RFL as the governing body. And I think one of the main reasons that I was probably chosen to take on this role was because of the fact that I am a current player. I've been through all the pathways that have been involved in girls and women's rugby league, and therefore can speak from experience. I've seen the change from what was a relatively unknown sport in terms of women. It had little to no media profile or visibility when I first got involved. Until playing in the England women's team, I didn't know any of the England women's players. They didn't get any sort of coverage. To seeing now, we've recently had games live on the BBC, live on Sky, is going in a really great way. And I'm sure in the not too distant future, there'll be professional players. So I've seen such a transition in the sport that I can speak from experience. I can also consistently feedback from a player's perspective what we want, what we need from the sport. It is a pivotal time for women and girls rugby league right now, especially with the opportunity of a home World Cup, that we need to take advantage from commercial perspective to developing and growing and getting more girls involved. So yeah, I'm hoping that my involvement as a player will be able to add to that, with a growth of hopefully even more girls after the World Cup, and with opportunities and various development programs that I'm looking to put in place, leading to hopefully the first at least semi-professional players through into sort of 2025, a broadcast deal, commercial deals come into play. So that's sort of the roadmap I'm working on and hopefully can help influence.
I think that's female leadership in action right there, Jodie, encapsulating with what you said. And I think, for our younger audience, Jodie, it was about being in the right place at the right time. But it's also about making sure you put yourself in those situations to maximize your experience. And talking about our younger audience, I love to involve them because they're key and they are the future. And so we have some video messages and questions. And the first one is actually from a member of our youth council. Her name is Andaleja Milovanovic. Sorry, I butchered your name there, but I do love you, our Instagram queen. She helps us on Instagram. She's our youth council member, and she's Serbian, and her question is for Sonia.
Hi everyone, my name is Angelija Milovanovic and I'm a Sports Integrity Global Alliance Youth Council member. I'm very happy that SIGA WOW is back and that Katie gave me opportunity to ask questions in this new episode. I'm excited that I can see that some representative of Serbian sports organization is here because I'm from Serbia. And I have a question for Sonja Vasic. Zdravo, Sonja. I would like to ask you, from your personal experience, how difficult it was to pursue academic career and career as a professional basketball player at the same time, and how important do you think pursuing dual career is for female athletes? And also, when did you realize that you want to stay in the field of sport after finishing your career as a professional athlete? Thank you very much. That will be all from me. Bye.
Wow, that's great, having a question from somebody from Serbia. Obviously it wasn't easy, you know, handling both basketball career and academic, my aspirations, pursuing them, especially at that time. You know, today everything is completely different. At that time, we didn't have so many online options. You know, universities weren't that open, you know, to changing their the way that they are functioning. So when I first started going abroad when I was 17, so I already had to drop out of my high school as a regular student. And it was a big change, honestly. And I do feel that the thing that kept me pushing is that the same spirit I had in sports to be the best possible I had as my academic, you know, personality. I just, you know, made sure that always, whatever I do the best I can. So sometimes that was enough, sometimes it wasn't. But for me, I do feel that only people who don't want something, they don't get it done. So it's the same, you know, with making sure you continue your academic studies during your playing time. So maybe at some point it went slower than I would have liked it, because I was, you know, a lot of time abroad and I didn't have a lot of time. But I knew that as long as I'm kept in touch with that world and that I'm, you know, making sure that I put work in, you know, I will get things done. So for me, I feel like it is hard, but today, you know, with the improvement of the technologies and more understanding, I feel, from professors and teachers, it's also easier. And if you're ready to, you know, put in the work, you will be able to accomplish it. Regarding, you know, my future and making a decision whether I want to stay in sports, people who know me knew that I was like last 2-3 years of my career saying that I will not stay in the sports, you know, industry, that I will probably go out, you know, that I need a change and a little bit of a different air, you know, just to refresh and relax. But yeah, as I said, you know, I took some time off after Olympics. I had around like 3 months of not doing anything. That really helped me out, you know, to sort out my, you know, ideas, opinions. And when the opportunity with the Olympic Committee of Serbia came, I just felt it's too good opportunity to pass out, you know, like maybe I wasn't dreaming of this. But now when I'm in this area and I had the opportunity, you know, to see how something is functioning, which from abroad as the athlete, a lot of time you are judging and you're finding out the mistakes. And now I'm on a front field of being the change. So I just want to make sure that this is something that I will, you know, try and be, you know, the people's, you know, the face that is representing the athletes in the Olympic Committee, that, you know, that I'm trying to do something for good and, you know, trying to correct the things that while I was still playing, I noticed that wasn't the best way. So, you know, we will see with the time if I was able to be part of the positive things. But for me, it was always whether either you will try or you will be on the sidelines. And honestly, I never really liked being on the sidelines.
I can't imagine you on the sidelines, and it sounds like you're going to really push the sports governance for the Serbian National Olympic Committee, drawing on your experience as an athlete. We now have a video question for Jody from someone very special who's contributed to this episode. Her name is Reem. She's going to introduce herself better than I can. She's a journalist at our global media partner, Diario AS, and she's also a former Olympian. Over to you, Reem.
Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be part of SIGA's 8th episode of Life Within and After Sport / Career Transitions. I think it's a great topic that isn't talked about enough, so I'm very excited to just hear what all our amazing speakers get to say today and get to share and enlighten us with. I'm quickly going to introduce myself before I go ahead and ask a question to one of our speakers. My name is Reem Abdelazim. I am a journalist for ASUSA, and we are a very proud media partner of SIGA. I'm also a two-time Olympian for artistic swimming and the former assistant coach for the United States senior national team of artistic swimming. I've had several years, I mean, over 15 years of experience as an athlete in synchronized swimming, which is what it was called in the past. And I've transitioned to a coach. And I've coached on many different levels for 8 years, on a collegiate level, on a club level, and finally on national team level. So I've certainly had very interesting and very different experiences for so many years, especially because my experiences for maybe half of the time that I started as an athlete was in Egypt, which is where I'm originally from. And then my other years of experience happened in the US when I traveled to become a student athlete and representing Lindenwood University, studying there, becoming a collegiate athlete, learning, you know, how cultures work differently and how leadership works differently. And I think that's when I really learned how to become a leader. And so I guess my topic and question at the same time is about leadership, and especially for women. Jodie, I know you are a rugby player, and at the same time you're working in the governing body, helping women and other girls. So I would love to know what's your experience been like as both a player and a person who helps lead all these other women that you have. What's been the most challenging thing for you? I guess that's the question. What's been the most challenging thing for you? And how have you found support from other women leaders in your sport?
Oh, brilliant question. Thanks, Reem. And you have clearly got lots of experience yourself, so very impressive CV there. And I'd assume we probably have faced similar challenges. Personally, one of the challenges I've found in terms of working in the sport while still an athlete, and I think would be the same even if I'd already retired, is being seen as a professional rather than just as an athlete. Obviously, I have opinions and thoughts and feedback from an athlete's perspective, but equally, you know, as in my professional capacity, I've delivered and have experience in lots of different programs which are relevant to the sport. So I think that's one of the main challenges I've found is really getting your voice heard as a professional leader rather than just as an athlete. I think in regards to sort of the second part of your question in terms of getting other women and girls involved, it's been, I'd say, resoundingly positive experience. For women in rugby league, I think we are all really grateful of the profile and visibility which we are receiving over recent years. And I think many of the women and girls involved in our sport are really happy that somebody is being the face of that and the front of that to allow more doors and opportunities to open for other people in the game. For example, in 2018, I was the first female player to commentate and be a professional pundit on a Sky men's game. No female player had ever done that before. Since there's been multiple players, there's been 4, 5, 6 players who've done the same. It's all about being the first and opening the doors, I'd like to say. And people have fed back to me that I'm a good role model in terms of being the person to be the front and center of it initially, so that actually more opportunities then open up for other girls in the game. And that has happened, and we have seen that over recent years. So I think there are elements of difficulty while still playing and feeling that maybe it is my face that's at the front of some of this work, and possibly there's you know, a lot to be shared about. There's amazing women that are part of this sport that also deserve to have some of that limelight and be front and center. But equally, I think I've had that support of other leaders around me. And I think, you know, it is easy to tear people down at times, but I've received quite positive feedback from the women and girls that I work with, and particularly the men. I think the men that I work with in the governing body are well aware that actually we needed more female representation in leadership roles, and actually they're very supportive of that and have been mentors to me in terms of filling some of the gaps in knowledge that I may not have, that some of the men that have been part of the professional system do have. So yeah, I think resoundingly across the board, it has been really good, but absolutely not to underestimate the allies in terms of the men in our sport who have allowed me and put me forward and supported me in doing some of the work that I have done over recent years.
Spot on, Jodie, talking about male allies. We've actually got a panel on that at our summit in New York next month with some amazing guest speakers. So check out the agenda. We'll be releasing speakers daily, but we do have a panel entirely dedicated to male allies. Before I bring in my third live guest, here is our gift giveaway question with a chance to win a scholarship to the 2022 SIGA Women Global Mentorship Programme. It is a great experience. You'll be paired bilaterally with your mentor, and you will have the support of the SIGA group sessions. We've got 8 group sessions throughout the year. So the question is, what year was the first cycle of the SIGA mentorship program? Was it A, 2017, B, 2018, or C, 2021? So send your answer to the live chat. The first person who answers it correctly, I will announce you as a winner during the show. So without any more delay, it is my pleasure to bring the science to the show. We've heard from the athletes who have and are transitioning. So now we're going to hear from Dr. Kirsten van Heerden. She's joining us from South Africa. You're a South African national team swimmer, and now you're impressively a sports psychologist. And I wanted to ask you from the outset, let's get straight to it, Kirsten. When that alarm clock goes off in an athlete's competing career, how should they prepare for life after sport?
That's all. First of all, hi, Katie. And it was just really lovely to hear your previous guest, chatting about their experience. And in part answer to your question, I think exactly what you're doing now, having athletes share their stories, is part of what you can do to actually prepare. Because as you say, when that alarm clock does go off and you kind of wake up to this reality of life after sport, it's too late then in some respects to start preparing. And what I loved about what the previous guests, Sonia and Jodie, said was that they were very aware right from the beginning that there was this other life, apart from sport. And so, but what I would suggest, when that alarm clock goes off, what do you need to do immediately? And I would say to plug into networks of athletes that have been through it to talk about it, because I think it was, I can't remember who it was now, that said that it's often not a subject that's spoken about. And sometimes you feel like you're going through things which maybe are not normal, or you feel, should I be feeling like this? So really, if you can talk to people that have been through it, connect with athletes that have been through it, it just makes a huge difference. But ultimately, you need to start preparing long before that alarm clock goes off.
Yeah, it's almost at the same time, I'm guessing, maybe even before that. And what do you think, when the work you do with athletes, what are their biggest fears during this, when they're approaching this transition, do they share with you? And do you think it's harder for female athletes than male athletes when they transition careers to at the end and they're ready to go into the next phase of their life?
And great questions again. Let me answer the first question. I think a lot of the times the athlete's biggest fears is, if they haven't prepared properly, it's what am I going to do? But even if they have, when I say properly, it's, when they have prepared and thought about it, it's this idea of, is normal life going to be as exciting in many respects, as your playing career? Their fears are around, say, am I going to earn money? Am I going to be able, is it going to be exciting enough for me? What am I going to do? And, so it's not just one thing. I think there are a variety of things that athletes do worry about. Let me just say, even those that have actually prepared and thought through it, the transition is still difficult, because there are things that you don't really think about. Then when you actually go through it, you're like, oh my goodness, actually, that is a little bit difficult. So sorry, carry on.
No, it's developing that mindset. I guess that, athletes are renowned for being very targeted in their thinking, and they have a goal, but it's changing their goals. Would you say it's sort of goal setting in a different way?
Absolutely. And I think, if I can put it in a nutshell, I think what they often are afraid of is, what is the new dream? And I know we often speak about dual career. So while you are participating, you should study, which is great, and you must. But what other dream do you have? And I've yet to meet an athlete when I first start working with them, when I say, so what is the dream? And I'm not specific about sport dream or life dream. I've yet to meet an athlete that goes, Kirsten, sure, I'd love to be a sports psychologist one day, but I'd also love to be an Olympic swimmer. So there's this bias towards the sports dream. And I think we really have to help athletes go, this is amazing, but there's this other dream. And I mean, just hearing, both Sonia and Josie as well speaking about their careers afterwards and how excited they are and the contribution that they can make. So I think we have to really help athletes see that transition can be really exciting and there can be this wonderful life, ahead. It doesn't just have to be, oh my goodness, like the best days are behind me. And then to go into your question around, women and transitioning, it's a tough one in that I don't think it's necessarily more difficult for women. I think it's differently, difficult, and they're different challenges. As we heard, first of all, women's sport is not as professional. Well, a lot of women's sport is not as professional. So a lot of women haven't earned as much money, as their male counterparts. So certainly that's one thing that they have to kind of deal with. They don't have that pot of money, although they've probably spent as much time, participating and training and competing in their sport. And, so that is one thing that I think can be challenging. But on the flip side of that, which I think is an interesting idea as well, like as we heard, I think that also sometimes forces women to know that there is a life after sport. And so while they are participating, they also have this idea, and it comes from family as well, but because it's not as professional sometimes, that I have to be smart. I know that there is this life and I have to prepare for this life as well. Where I find sometimes with the male athletes, from the time they're like 10 years old, I'm just going to be a professional rugby player. Like, that's it. There's nothing else. Or I think sometimes with women, there is this idea of, yes, I can do that, but goodness, I also need to study and maybe I need to work part-time to, support myself.
Multitasking from the get-go, I would say.
Yes,
you teed me up perfectly with the next question, because you mentioned dream, and you've written a book, and I love the title. It's called Waking from the Dream, and you're generously giving it to us in the gift giveaway. Can you tell us the question? And again, if our global audience can, in the live chat, include their answers, we will be sending the book to the fastest person to hit that button.
Yes, absolutely. So the question is, when should an athlete prepare for their transition out of sport or their retirement? So A, is it at the beginning of their careers? B, is it when they get injured? Or C, is it at the end of their career when they know they're going to be retiring?
Thank you so much. Now, finally, I do want to bring us into a more of a hard-hitting topic, because you are a sports psychologist, and I'm really keen to hear your views on this. But you will know that in the news recently, and unfortunately, there's been lots of reports of female athletes being abused by coaches. It's happened in football, it's happened in gymnastics, to name just a few sports. And over the weekend, there were reports of sexual harassment of a young female executive working at FIFA. And so I wanted to see, from your point of view, how do we support women psychologically going through these experiences? And more importantly, how do we put in place procedures to stop such abuses taking place?
Yeah, and again, this is such an incredibly important topic. And as you say, over the weekend, the news that broke, and certainly in South Africa at the moment, this issues of safeguarding is very topical and very important to say. In a number of sports, there are coaches that have been accused of sexual abuse and sexual harassment. And I think, and this is what I love about what you're doing, it does often boil down to governance as well. And we've seen some in the sporting codes in South Africa, there's not the political will to actually, there might be policies in place, but there actually has to be the political will and the governance and the will behind that to say we need to do something about this. Even though, and I'll just give you an example, South Africa, even though there are the allegations that have been made and there's an actual case number, against a particular coach, nothing has been done by the federations. And so, you kind of think, what else do you need to do? So I say, I do think it starts with the leadership and I say from the federations down. What do we have to do to support? I think, women, that's again, what I love what you're doing, women supporting women, that is critical for me. And I think it's so hard for women to come out in the first place and say something. And I always love it when someone does, and then you often have, which again has happened in South Africa, there's 2, 3, 4 women then that follow suit. So I think those brave women that do actually break the silence and speak out, I think they're deserving of attention. I think they're deserving of when I say attention, of giving our attention to this and to be able to take them seriously. not necessarily just questioning them as to what has happened. And I don't mean that we just believe what everybody says, but I think it's deserving of actually we need to investigate this properly. And I don't think that always happens.
I think it goes back to, systemic governance challenges. And, at SIGA, we've got our SIGA Universal Standards on Youth Development and Protection. They are launching the consultation phase later, I think in the next couple of months. And then they will make up our 4th set of universal standards. So I wanted to reference that as it is a live issue and it needs sorting out. And sports organisations do need to be held accountable as well, and they have a duty of care for the athlete. So I wanted to reference that, and thank you for not shying away from that difficult question. We're going to finish your section of the show. Again, I was keen to link you with an athlete. Her name's Brooke Chaplin, and she's a professional footballer at Reading FC. Brooke, what's your question for Kirsten?
Hi guys, I just want to start by saying that it's an absolute honour to be amongst some incredible women who are all such great advocates for women and for women in sport. I play for Reading Women Football Club in the FAWSL, and I have done for 5 years now. I've represented England at all age groups up until the under-23s, and my biggest achievement to date in football would be winning the FA Cup with Everton, which happened a long time ago before the FAWSL even launched. So my career is interesting really because I've watched the sport professionalise, which has meant that I worked alongside football for a long time. Football was kind of a hobby for a long period, and this meant that I was actually able to gain some significant workplace experience before turning pro. However, it's been 7 years since I went full time, and so I started to prepare myself in the last couple of years for the career transition that is inevitable for all professional athletes. I've just completed a master's in the business of football, and I'm now part of the Step Up programme at Coaches Across Continents, and that's basically been designed to specifically help female athletes gain workplace experience in preparation for life after sport, which I think is really important and helpful for females because we don't have the same income or trajectory as males do in certain sports. So I suppose I have a question for Kristen really. I've been quite proactive and self-motivated to study throughout my football career, but do you think that associations and governing bodies in sport truly understand the psychological benefits to athletes engaging in activities like education outside of sport, and how important do you think it is for them to not only encourage it but to also facilitate these opportunities?
Again, that's a really fantastic question, Brooke, and thank you so much for that. And, I'm going to start by saying, of course, yes, it's important because absolutely, and again, I think what we've heard, this whole hour is how important it actually is to think about something else other than sport, to do studies, to keep an eye on the future. And, for athletes as well, unless you have a family that is really supportive and it talks to you about these things, very often athletes don't. And I know around the world, and certainly in South Africa, a lot of athletes come from really tough backgrounds, really difficult backgrounds, and their families don't always offer that kind of support. And so I think this is where federations, you spoke about kind of duty of care, and I think this is where federations, there is an element of duty of care to be able to start putting in programs or developing programs even further to help athletes with this transition. And I can just, on a personal note, as a sports psychologist, I became increasingly uncomfortable with helping athletes to just perform, and then kind of going, okay, goodbye, enjoy the rest of your life, and I hope that you're okay, good luck. And I thought, I can't possibly do that. So I want you to be able to perform, but we also want you to prepare. And definitely federations have to be the ones that step in and offer athletes these opportunities. And let me just say as well, it's not just about studying, it's really important studying, but it's about helping athletes understand themselves, know what they're interested in. I say, know what they want to dream of one day. And studies is great, but I say, I know too many athletes that have studied, but when they transition out of the sport, they still battle because it's not really what they want to do, or they haven't really thought through it properly. So I'll say it again, for me, it's what federations and clubs and organizations need to do is start speaking to athletes about what is your other dream and how do we help support you in that.
Fantastic advice, Kirsten. It sounds like the federations should get you in to be a guest speaker to their teams. It sounds like you've got brilliant wealth of experience. Thank you so much. I will be answering or disclosing who won the book shortly, but we're going to go to a different segment of the show, and this was courtesy of Reem and AS, and we're going over virtually to Spain, where I got to catch up earlier this week with a legend who is one of Athena's most decorated female athlete. She's a 2-time Olympic artistic swimmer, and her name is Ona Carbonell. So let's check out my chat with Ona. Una, buenas tardes. Hola, welcome to Siga Wow. We're so excited to have you on the show today, and you are still very much on the top, competing at the highest level of your career. Is there a moment to start thinking about life after sports? And how do you deal with so much success and ambition to win more, and at the same time plan ahead, hopefully, your distant retirement?
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you to invite me here. It's an honor for me being here. I think the base of everything is the lessons you learn. I think I have a lot to improve, and I think one of the most beautiful things in life is to learn from the people and from the situations. So the ambition continues because I think that I can still improve and I can still grow. And sport will continue to help me grow as a person too. And the balance in my life, it's all about doing everything with passion, with character, and a lot of work, obviously, work, and always with a big smile. I think it's important to smile always and be positive, no? And always dream big too.
Dream big with a big smile. I love that. That's amazing. I just want to fill our guests in on, tell us about your career potentials, because it's a different type of sport, artistic swimming. Can you tell us a bit about it?
About artistic swimming?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a special sport. I like it because it's very, artistic. I love all art, I love ballet, music, all. And artistic swimming, you can be in the medals only with a good looking or some, to swim with heart, no? And this is amazing for me. Sometimes it's very hard and difficult because sometimes you lost for something, it's not like seconds or, it's different. But for me, it's very nice sport and I love it. And but also it's very hard sport.
It's a tough sport. And what I was really interested in reading, Ona, is that you recently, you've had a child, so you're a professional athlete, artistic swimming, won countless medals in the Olympics. And you've recently complained about, from a woman's perspective, about breastfeeding and whether it's compatible with the Olympic Games, and that you're unable to take your son with you to Tokyo. Was this the hardest moment of your career so far? And what advice can you give to other female athletes that are thinking about becoming a mother in the not so distant future?
Not being able to bring my child to Tokyo was not close to my hardest moment in my career. I have had moments much more difficult, but this year really was extremely hard mentally and physically because I had just given birth, wasn't sleeping, and was breastfeeding at the pool. Also getting in shape after 9 months of being pregnant was very, very difficult. So the year it was very hard. But I don't know. I think women, we have extra power, so we can do everything that we want. I think we can, and to have a family, it's the most beautiful thing that I have now, that I never imagined. So I think it's very nice, and I think it's. The women can do both things, sport career and be mother. It's very difficult. We need to grow up and we need more facilities. We need more information because when I decided to come back to Tokyo, very fast after giving birth, Kai, we look a lot with my coach, and it was not information about breastfeeding and training very hard, or we need more facilities, more information, and I think much more mothers and much more athletes will be mother. No?
Yeah, more awareness, more people seeing you around the pool with your child, knowing, God, that is possible. I think that's amazing. And I think that, it's really brilliant and honest of you to explain some of the battles you face, just getting back into shape after pregnancy, something that a man doesn't have to face. Obviously they face other things, getting used to a new child, but I think those realities are difficult for a woman and very specific to being a woman. So I think it's brilliant that you're sharing that experience, because it's the realistic and also the honest thing to do. And I think a lot of women can feel some hope that you've managed to do it, and you're here with that big smile on your face. Do you think athletes talk about during their careers about having a family, and what are the biggest fears you've acknowledged from other athletes and your own fears on life after sport, and even just juggling motherhood and other things, education, studying? That came up in one of my earlier discussions on the show. How do you do it all?
It's not easy, but one important thing is my coach give me all the power. She did that. I believe in myself that I can do it. So I'm grateful of my coach and of my partners. This is a very important thing, because one of the difficult things is that when you are a mother, I think all the people look you different, like, you will not be the same, because you are a mother, and maybe you will not get medals, or maybe your body changed too much. I don't know. I don't explain good because my English is not good, but I try to explain.
No, it's brilliant. Your English is great. And just so everyone knows, obviously, Ona's Spanish, but she's speaking in English, and it's much better than my Spanish, which I couldn't find to Novio.
Thank you. It's important to have help if you in your team, with your coach, with your partners, and also your family. I had a lot of help, and also now to do it possible. But it's not easy. Last year, a lot of times I was in limit and thinking, finish, I can do it, no? But finally I work more, and finally we did it, no? But it's difficult to explain in English. Maybe I don't know how to explain. The women, we are afraid with maternity and sport, high sport, professional sport, because it's not very easy. So my goal is to explain to the people that we need more help, because women, we don't have this afraid, I don't know if I explain good.
I think I understand. You're saying women shouldn't be afraid to ask for help. In order to achieve it, you need the help and you need the network. We needed Sonia then to do the translation, but thank you so much to Ona. And I think that her insights on balancing motherhood and being an Olympic athlete were really pertinent and can inspire other women to do the same. We're now going to our Career Corner section, again courtesy of our global media partner AS, and I was able to catch up with Annie and Natalia, athletes from Spain, for this final segment. Annie and Natalia, welcome to SIGA WOW Women on Wednesdays. It's amazing to have you both here, given your sporting credentials, and I'm delighted to have you both featuring in the Career Corner section of the show. And I'm going to kick off with Annie, who's won gold and silver medals for water polo around the world. And I'd just like to ask you, what's your biggest achievement in sport so far? Give us a picture for our international audience.
I would say in terms of medals, my biggest two achievements are the silver medals from Tokyo and from London in the Olympics, and also the World Championship in Barcelona that we won gold into 2013. But also in terms of like life in general, my biggest achievements are the friendships I take from water polo. I played all over the world, and having friends from all over the world for life is one of my best treasures I have.
I love that. I love that, Annie. So global network of brilliant friends around the world through your athlete competing career. And as you mentioned, you're still actively competing. Are you encouraged to think about life after sport when you're still an athlete? And is there a pressure on you to think about that? Or are you just living the dream, playing water polo and not worried about that at the moment?
Yeah, well, when I was younger, I was like more focused just on water polo, but right now I'm playing for CM Mataró and the Spanish national team, but also thinking about my future. So at the moment I'm working as the international relations for BILPA, which is a water polo, like the Barcelona International Water Polo Academy. And what I do basically is help athletes from all over the world to have the opportunity to study and play water polo in Barcelona. So it's a good way, like I'm connected to my sport and I still like getting introduced into like the jobs.
I think what is absolutely incredible and what I'm learning is that, you know, female athletes, they're doing dual careers whilst competing at the highest level like yourself. And I just think it's brilliant that you're paving the way for other young women, well, and male athletes as well, to do the same. Natalia, I'd like to move to you. You played football at the highest level in Spain for the women's national team. It's well known that the women's game is behind the men's game commercially from a revenue perspective. Did you feel pressure during your playing career to find another job after sport? And how did you balance that with your training?
Yeah, most of my career I was trying to study and playing football at the same time, and it was hard for me. Indeed, I left the national team for 4 years, and then I was lucky to come back before the World Cups in 2015. But because it was hard for me studying during the camps, and it's very hard to balance both things at the same time, but you cannot forget that your future is as important as your football career.
I mean, really wise words, those last few words that you said. Do you think there's more pressure on women than male athletes to do that career due to the lack of money in the sport?
Yeah, if you compare the money that the men are winning in football, you cannot compare with women's. That is impossible. And all the women have to think about their future because they cannot win enough money to live without working.
I think that there's a huge challenge to catch up. Any ideas on how we can make the women's game more commercially viable to attract more revenue? What are your thoughts given you were playing? How do we get more commercial partners on board?
Well, the main problem in Spain is the media right, because now there is a huge fight between our federation and the clubs. And it is the most important for women's football in Spain is to watch a football match on TV. This is the most important thing for us. And this is the best way to show the world how we play. So we need to stop fighting for the media rights.
Yeah, I believe that we should separate the media rights and not bundle them together with the men's game, and that they should stand on their own if possible. What do you think about that?
Well, we cannot compare with men because it's impossible. And what we want is to have the best facilities, the best staff, and the best environment to develop as a professional football. That's what we want. Because if we compare with the most important sport in the world, it is impossible. So the main thing for us is to show the world on TV. So this is important to stop fighting for that.
Yeah, get visibility, get more fans engaged, more men and female fans engaged, get everyone interested, I would say.
Exactly.
I think going on to the career section, your top 3 career tips for female athletes that want to transition at the end of their playing careers. Starting with you, Annie, what's your top 3 career tips?
For me, I think it is hard to give advice yet because I haven't been in that position yet, but I would recommend to prepare for the future in terms of studying. And also, for me, it's like being patient, as it will probably be hard to find a job that you will love as much as your sport. And then also for me, it's helpful when I ask for help to people because there are professionals who know and have better understanding of this like transition and will be able to assist any female athlete that wants to go into like the jobs.
Thank you. Natalia, what would your top 3 career tips be? And if you were to advise your younger self, what would your advice be?
Well, the most important tip for the young players is that they never can forget about their future. They need to play football at the same time they are studying. And if they are struggling when they finish their career, we have association which can help you to find the first job because it's difficult if you can get formation instead of studies. So find help and don't forget your studies.
So study all the way. I do think that the female athletes may be the smarter than the men ones due to the study and the needs. So we're maybe more talented. I'll probably get shot down for that, but I'd like to add that. And certainly, Natalia and Annie, you are testament to that. And I know, just like to thank Annie because I know she's feeling a little bit under the weather today because she had her 3rd vaccination. Thank you for joining Sega Wow, and we look forward to seeing what your career moves are, Annie, in the future, and to continue watching you compete at water polo. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'm going straight to the gift giveaway. We're nearly at the end of the hour. And I'm delighted to say it's Becca Brown, Marketing Director at NFT Genius from Texas, USA. So brilliant. Shout out to you, Becca. And I'll be emailing you shortly with more details on the Global Mentorship Program. Great to have you on our scholarship. And I'm going to sort of close this episode in a different way. Normally I announce the male champion of the month, but I wanted to lead by example here and pave the way for female leaders. And I'm going to go to my mentee from the 2021 SIGA Women Global Mentorship Program. Her name is Inês Centeno from Portugal. And Inês, I've just seen that you've won the book. So that wasn't fixed, I'd just like to add, but Kristen will be sending you the book your way. But Inês is a very special person. She's a former athlete and she's spearheading an athlete program called Sports Embassy. And she certainly inspired me. And I wanted her to share the great work she's doing.
Hi everyone, this is Inês from Sports Embassy. We are a social project based in Portugal where we promote dual career for athletes and work with the athletes for their preparation for life after sports. For our work, we've been developing several initiatives such as the Your Future program. We're launching the Heads Up platform in this first trimester, hopefully, regarding mental health prevention. We have a magazine called Legacy. We organize several events during the year, and we have our academy with courses for athletes and for companies. So this last year we got international, so we've been developing some of our initiatives in other countries besides Portugal as well. But our work with the athletes, besides the courses we have, it's based on their goals and their needs. So we believe that this preparation, the success of the preparation is a personalized one. So this is what we do with Your Future program, and we've been really happy with this program, and we have some athletes now working outside of the sports industry, and some of them thought they could only be coaches or something like that because they didn't want to leave their comfort zone. So I'm really honored to share our project with you, and I'm really, really happy to see so many powerful women speaking about this subject, and this is really important for the sports world to pay attention to. So thank you again for this opportunity, and have a great talk. Thank you.
We did have a great talk, Ines. I'm just going to throw it out to all of our guests and speakers to say goodbye. And just to remind you that the next WOW will be on the 6th of April, because March we've got our summit on female leadership in sport. It kicks off on International Women's Day, live from New York. I'm going for the first time in 2 years. So I will see you there. I will not be in my house in London. Goodbye from me and goodbye from our guests. Thank you.